everyone. You're listening to the Paranormal MD radio show, and I'm your host, Mary Marshall. I hope everyone is doing good. Well, I have to tell everyone that it has been a busy, busy weekend. I had the pleasure of being at the Global Pyramid Conference this past weekend, which is the first international and scientific global pyramid conference. There was just a fantastic lineup of speakers there, and I had the good fortune of being the conference interviewer, as they called it, and had the opportunity to speak to some really interesting people. First of three guests on tonight's show is Dr. Osmanagich. He is the discoverer of the Bosnia Pyramids, and also Dr. Robert Gilbert, who is a PhD. He is a Marine Corps, he was a Marine Corps instructor in nuclear, biological, chemical defense, and has over 30 years of research into mainstream and holistic health methods. And last but not least, we have Igor Petonik. Igor is going to spend some time with us to tell us how to protect ourselves from lower vibrations and give us some information on the physics, geometry, and electrical principles of pyramids and how such a structure can help to improve your meditative state, energize your body, and intensify your inner light. However, first, Yes, that's right. It's Weird World News and What You Didn't Know, which seems to be a popular feature and segment we do here on the show, so I had to include at least a few stories, but I can't do that unless I have my ever-trusty cohort. I don't know, what do I call you, Pam?
I'll answer to anything almost. Just don't call me late for dinner. Isn't that the old saying?
Yeah, exactly. So Pam is great. She's always helping me out with the news here, and we have fun because sometimes it is just weird. Anyway, let's start out with something. This is What You Didn't Know, and I always like, kind of unusual things. These are 6 inventions that were not intended for their current use. This is going to be interesting, Pam, because we don't have...
Yeah, it is.
To be honest, I have not read through all of these, so I'm going through it with the listeners. I'm going to read the little blurb here. Not everything we rely on today was intended for its current use. Sometimes the best ideas come from unexpected places, proving that when you discover something that works, you can't help but see the possibilities. Okay, so number 1 on this list is Charles Goodyear accidentally put a combination of rubber and sulfur on the stove and walked away. When he came back, he found a tough and durable material now known as the plastic we use today. All right, I got to stop here because I have a question about this. How do you accidentally have rubber and sulfur on the stove?
That was going to be my question. Oops, forgot. Everyday occurrence. I put my rubber and my sulfur on the stove.
Exactly. It's like, I just happened to have my gym shoe and the toilet brush, and what do you know? I came up with a new Christmas tree. I don't know. I would assume that they were already doing experimenting on something else scientifically, and this is how it came. But the way the article states it just came out odd.
And I'm guessing it wasn't a kitchen stove, but more like a laboratory stove.
You would think.
But who knows? In this day and age, you never know.
I know. Okay, so number 2, temper foam. That popular padding that absorbs shock while providing comfort and protection is now widely used in the helmets of race car drivers. It was originally invented in 1966 for use on seat cushions in rocket ships. Well, that's not that weird of a sidestep.
No, not really.
Because, seats, cushions, rocket ships, absorbing, and it's used in, in helmets. I mean, well, I'm sure it's used in a lot of various things now, including our mattresses.
Right.
Or is that sort of different? No, Tempur-Pedic, Posturepedic, or
Temper
whatever.
foam, and to be
Yeah,
the same thing?
yeah, I think so. It probably I'm sure they've done a whole lot more to it, this memory foam, and now they have the gel to keep it cool. And I'm sure they have, speaking of those, I'm sure the amount of chemicals that we sleep on is just off the
I don't
charts.
think we want to know. There's certain things you just don't want to know.
Once because I desperately had needed a job for about 6 months in between jobs, had taken a sales job at a fragrance and flavor company. But yeah, I mean, it was like every chemical name you see listed on a product probably consists of 20 more chemicals. And so, like these mattresses that are the foam, memory foam, and then have the gel, and then this, and I can't even imagine how many chemicals are in there. No one, and they say they smell, and no wonder why, because there's probably stuff in there. This is what I learned, which I didn't realize, that they actually put smells. I'm going to say it that well. Okay, I can't say smells. Scents into products that smell really, really bad to try to neutralize that. So the ones that kind of have that chemically smell, it's outrageous the amount of stuff that's in there to try to
Because now
counter.
you got double the chemicals from the original chemical
Right.
and the new chemical for the smell.
Yeah.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. I used to get, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. It was like weird requests I would get. I actually had somebody call up and wanted something that smelled like barf
Oh, gross.
and stuff. But it's sort of the sense that they use like at the Disney parks and stuff like that. But anyway.
Ew.
All right. I digress. All right. Here's number 3. The earliest known compass dates back to 206 BC and was made from a naturally magnetic stone. Modern GPS technology indicates position but not direction. Solidify the Yeah, this was pretty boring. That was a pointless one. Next.
Yeah, pretty much.
Next. So right now, I'm not even liking this whole article.
The title is a little bit not. It makes you think it's something it isn't.
Deceiving. Yeah.
It makes you think it's intended for something it's not.
All right. And again, this is one of those wheels. The first known wheels were not invented for transportation, but they served as potter's wheels. And then it wasn't until like 300 years later that someone figured out how to use them for chariots. Are you kidding me?
It only took them 300 years to figure out to use it for something other than pottery?
Were they idiots?
Apparently. 300 years it took them.
Oh, come on.
Okay, now that one's more interesting than the previous one. 300 years? No way.
Come on. Oh,
No, I don't believe that. Because
I don't either.
Where chariots would have been like after cavemen and that, and they show. I
But
remember
they
seeing
weren't
like
used
pictures.
for transportation. They might have even
Well,
used it to cart something at some point. But let's put it this way. If they got as far to using the wheels on some type of cart for moving things,
isn't that still transportation? You're transporting the thing from one place to another, or they're just specifically talking human transport?
well, you know what? That is a technicality. Yeah, I don't know.
Because I mean, even Fred Flintstone had wheels on his car. You still had to push it with your feet, but come on. I'm just saying.
Is this true? I wish they would find something like that in caveman era. That'd be just awesome. All right, I'm done with this article. I'm not even finishing the rest of them because
That's probably the best one.
that probably was the best one. So, you have a story for me.
I have a story about farm-raised salmon suffer from depression. I bet you didn't know that.
I did not.
And out of Gothenburg, Sweden, every salmon farm features, quote, dropouts, unquote, growth-stunted fish that float lifelessly at the surface of the pond. New research suggests these fish are severely depressed. Aw, the poor little fishies. The dejected salmon are called dropouts because they appear to have given up. based on the latest findings published in Royal Society Open Science. Calling such fish suicidal doesn't seem like much of an exaggeration. How scientists know? Scientists measured significantly higher levels of cortisol, a stress response hormone, in the dropout salmon. Aww. I wonder if that's what Nemo suffers from when they couldn't find Nemo.
I don't know, but I want to see the new movie anyway. I love that movie.
Right?
And I'm grown up,
go.
and it's one of those fun memories that I think, is it wrong? And it is wrong. Okay, I know I'm going to have people yelling at me because when you said calling such fish suicidal, I chuckled. I couldn't help it.
Right?
Because when you have children and you have those fish bowl tanks that just get nasty, dirty, and gross and disgusting, like goldfish, but you're not even just a fish tank. You always have the jumpers.
Right? They
you hear
jump
about that and
out.
you're like, oh man, you come home and you're like, really? I got another suicidal fish because it jumped out of the tank.
Because they think life is greener on the other side.
I know, and it's not. I feel bad for them. It is really, to be honest, it is actually very sad that again we tend not to put fish in the same category as animals. That we cage and say, oh, with the look at the bear, he's depressed and he needs all these other things to be happy. We don't do that with the fish, and that's sort of sad because apparently they can be depressed too, so much so that they just literally give up wanting to live, which is really sad.
It is, but then on the other hand, when you think about this whole story, it starts out, it's a salmon farm. What is the purpose of a salmon farm? Isn't it to breed them so that they can produce them for like selling to people to eat? So if I knew I was going to be someone's dinner, I'd be depressed too.
They don't know that. They don't have that kind of reasoning. They just know my life is miserable. This is it. Every day and night I'm stuck in this little space of this bubble and I don't want to live anymore. They just are like, I can't take it. And then they float up. I had a suicidal fish once. I was trying to clean the kid's tank or bowl, I should say, fish bowl, and I scooped him and the stupid, dumb, I almost said a word there, dummy, jumped and and then he was on the counter, and then I'm trying, and then the thing jumps and then it just sort of flaps off the counter all the way to the floor, which has got to be like a 70-story drop for a fish.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm like, la, 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 and I got to try to pick this thing up, and I'm freaking out, and I pick it up, and I put it back in the bowl, and I'm like, this thing is going to die, and now I'm standing there, and I keep watching it, but I didn't want to tell the kids.
You don't want to tell them what happened?
Yeah. No, I didn't want to say what happened, so I was kind of hiding it, and the thing had a concussion. I could see it. It was like this big red blob right like by its forehead. And it was and I'm like, oh, it's a goner. And I totally was expecting it to be dead by morning, and it wasn't. It recuperated.
Really?
Yeah. Shockingly, when I kind of really did want the thing to die because I was tired of cleaning that tank. But,
that's too funny.
But yeah, I felt I felt horrible. I don't want to hurt a pet. Now, here's the thing. What's the difference between that being a pet and these poor salmon? We don't yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Except there's so many more of them. Did this guy have a buddy in the tank with him? I mean, a farm, you got to assume that there's a lot of more, so they have, kind of a social thing going on there. But if it's a single fish, I could see being more depressed.
I wonder how crowded those tanks are. I mean, like those farms are, like, do they have literally no room to move?
Some of them don't.
Oh, see, I do feel... I just don't want to think about it because I don't want to have food guilt. I'm not a vegetarian. I respect people who are. I just consciously make the choice that I do not want to have food guilt, so I don't go down that road. I just kind of deny.
Right. Where it comes from, that's all you need to know.
Exactly. And then even then, when I'm sitting there eating steak, I don't go, oh, look at the cute piece of cow.
Right? Who does?
It's just... I don't want it. If it's
No.
here's the thing: if it's looking back at me, I don't want to eat it. So just chop its
Yeah.
head off. I'm fine. Uh, well, on that note, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. Stay tuned and smile.
Hi, this is Robin Terry from Ashmore Estates. Ashmore Estates is located about a mile west of Ashmore, Illinois. It was a former almshouse or poor farm, and then later a psychiatric care facility. If you're not familiar with Ashmore Estates, you might have seen us on Ghost Adventures, Season 5, Episode 1, or the documentary called Children of the Grave 2 by the Booth Brothers. There have been major improvements to the property since May of 2014. We have electrical, windows, restrooms, a separate team room, and even bunkhouses for overnight guests. I think you'll find the building an interesting place to perform an investigation, either at night or in the day. We also offer photo shoots, historical tours, and a location for movies to be filmed. Check us out on our Facebook page, Ashmore Estates, or on our website at ashmoreestates.net.
Hi, this is Chin Hee Park.
And this is Soon Hee Park. We're the Korean-Italian twin psychics.
We listen to the Paranormal MD radio show. Check it out. It's too cool.
Yeah, it is.
Hello and welcome back. You are listening to the Paranormal MD radio show, and I am your host, Mary Marshall. Please know that a portion of this program is sponsored in part by Chum Bucket Studios for all your printing, graphic, and video needs. Although the following guest interviews are pre-recorded, they were done live on the spot at the conference. So, if occasionally the sound gets a little wonky, like that word, wonky, that's my new word. But if it's a little bit off, this is why. It's a conference, there's a lot of people around, and although I did have a room, occasionally people were in and out of there, and just in general, the acoustics were not always that conducive to recording audio, particularly for a radio broadcast. So, work a little bit around any sound differences that you may normally hear during a live broadcast, and just thoroughly enjoy and take in what some of these speakers had to say. My first guest is Dr. Sam Osmanagich. Now, you all know I'm horrible at saying last names, so forgive me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure in a moment I will ask and he'll correct me if I've pronounced it incorrectly, which I probably have. Anyway, Dr. Sam is a brilliant man. He is this year's first honoree and recipient of the Emelia B Edwards Award for his dedication and tireless effort towards advancing our understanding of the history of pyramids throughout the world. He is the discoverer of the Bosnia Pyramids. He's foreign member of the Russian Academy in Natural Sciences, director of Center for Archaeology and Anthropology at American University in Bosnia. He is a member of the Archaeological Society of Alexandria, became the first honorary citizen of the town of Visoko in 2006, and has been awarded the title of Man of the Year 2007 in Bosnia for his research project, Bosnia Valley of the Pyramids, and for his promotion of the pyramids in the world in general. He's also a member of the Croatian Academy of Science and Art for Diaspora. And again, forgive me if my pronunciations are off. Dr. Sam is from Bosnia, and I am so thrilled to have him here with me today. So at this point, without further ado, let me welcome you. Thank you for joining me. I have to tell you, Sam, before we even hear from you, this is a very interesting experience for me. I do radio. I never see the people that I'm talking with. So it's very strange. We're sitting here in person having a conversation and I can see you. I don't know what to do. But Sam is here. We're doing, as you know, a live interviews at the Global Pyramid Conference 2016. And he is one of the guest speakers. So welcome.
Thank you, Mary. So, my name is Dr. Sam Osmanagich, and I'm anthropology professor back in Bosnia at the American University. And for the last 25 years, I have been researching pyramids. and I've realized that almost everything they teach us about them is wrong. They are telling us they are built in Egypt and Mexico only, but in reality they've been built on all 6 continents. For example, there are 250 pyramids in China, in the central province of Shanxi. There are pyramids in Indonesia, in Cambodia. There are pyramids in Sudan, 224 of them. There are pyramids on the island of Sicily, 43 of them. Sardinia, on Canary Islands, 103 pyramids. Island of Mauritius, in the middle of the Indian Ocean, 7 pyramids. In Peru, 300 pyramids. In Bolivia, pyramids of 13,000 feet above the sea level. Mesoamerica, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Belize, almost 100,000 pyramids. There are pyramids even in this very state of Illinois, in southwestern corner, just across St. Louis. There are 250 pyramids, which are called the Cahokia Mounds. They are not mounds, they are pyramidal structures.
What's the difference between mounds and...
Mounds is something that you made from soil, from dirt. And structure, you have, in the case of Cahokia pyramids, 4 different types of construction materials. You have sandstone blocks, you have pebbles, sands, rocks. When they completed those structures, they cover them with the squares which they cut from grass and soil. The biggest pyramids in Cahokia National Park is 12% larger than the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Now, 11 years ago, in April of 2005, I first came to the little Bosnian town of Visoko, in the central area of Bosnia. I came to visit the local museum, but what really caught my attention was what they called the Natural Hill, but it had 4 sides, triangular faces, obvious corners. I took compass, and compass showed me that those sides perfectly matched cardinal points: east, west, north, and south. Mother Nature does not make hills with 4 triangular faces and perfect orientation, but intelligent hands. Now, we are aware, of course, of Egyptian pyramids, but they are in deserts, they are in south, no rains, but most of the other pyramids in the world are in the same belt, like Chinese, Bosnian, Mexicans. A lot of rain, a lot of greenery, and after thousands of years they got covered by soil and vegetation. So usually it's about 3-4 feet of soil. In the last 11 years, we have started excavation. I established a non-profit foundation for the archaeological digging, and it has become the most active archaeological site in the world. Every year, hundreds of volunteers, dozens of experts from different scientific fields come to Bosnia, they dig with us, and what we are bringing is really history-changing discovery. Number one, these are the first pyramids in Europe. Nobody ever mentioned pyramids in Europe before. Well, now we know that there are pyramids in Italy, 5 pyramid complexes, the biggest one Montevecchia, close to Milan. There are pyramids in Spain, Palencia pyramids, 3 of them, southern France, even on ancient Greek soil, 16 of them, but nobody has researched them before, but the Bosnians are considered the first one. Number 2, these are the largest pyramids on the planet. For example, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, or Cheops Pyramid, is about 475 feet in height. The biggest pyramid in Bosnia, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, is over 720 feet. Number 3, we know that most of the old pyramids are oriented to the north, cosmic north. The best orientation so far was considered the northern side of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. The error from perfect north, 0 degrees and 2 minutes. According to the Bosnian State Institute for Geodesy, the northern side of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun has an error of 0 degrees, 0 minutes and 12 seconds, meaning this is the most precise orientation on the planet. And then, when we remove the layers of soil from the Bosnian pyramids, we are finding blocks. We analyzed them at 7 institutes for materials. The conclusion, it was an artificially made concrete. Now we have concrete. Well, if you have concrete, you can determine the quality of concrete. It is based on the hardness. Harder the concrete, the better the quality. In the 21st century, our concretes are in the range from 10 to 60 megapascals. The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun concrete is in the range from 73 to 134 megapascals, 2 to 3 times better quality than what we can make today.
Wow.
The next interesting element, under Egyptian pyramids, Giza or Saqqara, under Chinese pyramids, under Mexican like Palenque or Teotihuacan, there are network of tunnels. But the most extensive network is under the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids. So far we determined that we got 5 pyramids, which I named the Pyramids of the Sun, Moon, Dragon, Earth and Love. And the network runs for tens of miles. So we have actually the largest pyramid complex ever built. So only based on those physical elements we can say this is the history-changing discovery. But this is not all. This is really just the beginning. In the last 11 years, we've been trying to figure out the purpose of pyramids. What they've been telling us in schools, let's say for Egyptian pyramids, is simply that they were tombs for pharaohs. However, in the largest pyramid in Egypt, so-called Cheops or Cheops pyramid, the mummy has never been found. Under the second one, Khafre, no mummies. Djoser, Myceren, no mummies. The only pharaonic remains the tomb of the King Tut, King Tutankhamun.
Right.
But it was discovered 200 miles to the south in the valleys of Kings, not in the pyramid. So, we will learn that the claims by Egyptologists in the last 200 years, supported by Hollywood movies in the last 80 years, that the pyramids have been tombs for pharaohs is actually the biggest hoax in the history.
What?
Egyptian pyramids are much older than what they are telling us. It's over 12,000 years. Purpose has nothing to do with one dead body, that one of the king or pharaoh. They were not built for dead bodies, but for the living communities. And we, in our Bosnian Pyramid project, have done most explaining what is the true purpose of pyramids. For that, we could not use knowledge of archaeologists, Egyptologists, geologists, because nobody teaches in the school about the true purpose of pyramids. We needed support of experts in energy phenomena, the physicists, electrical engineers, sound engineers, scientists with the scientific instruments.
Right.
So we had teams from different countries, Croatia, Italy, Serbia, Finland, and other countries, coming measuring electromagnetism, ultrasound, infrasound, and some other phenomena. And we have determined that on the very top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, in the radius of 13 feet, there was an electromagnetic field of 28 kilohertz frequency. We got out of this radius no measurements. We went back in, the measurements was there. So it told us that this electromagnetism does not go left or right, but it goes up as the energy beam.
Interesting.
And then we had 3 more teams coming independently, confirming the same measurements. So when in the science you have 4 independent teams coming at 4 different times, coming with their own equipment, and they all get the same results, it is called an international independent scientific verification of the phenomenon. Which phenomenon? This energy beam, which is 28 kilohertz frequency, 13 feet in radius, focused and continuous, because we measure it during the winter and summer and spring and fall. And then we measured the strength of the signal on the top of the pyramid, on the ground, then 10 feet higher and another 10 feet higher. Every time we lift sonda, the signal was getting stronger and stronger. Now, the physicists could not believe. They said this is not how our technology works. Our technology works is closer to the source of the of this energy, the signal is stronger. You move away, the signal should be getting weaker. But in the case of Bosnian pyramids, it's opposite.
Interesting.
You move away, the signal is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Theoretically, this signal could move through our ionosphere and go through our solar system and go to any other solar system in our galaxy, Milky Way, and then hit any other planet and establish the energy bridge. Once you establish the energy bridge, then you can move vibrations, ultrasound or sound, the different frequencies, through this energy bridge. So basically you can move information.
Absolutely.
And once you do that, the pyramid becomes very powerful communication device. And then if you have point A, which is of course our planet and our pyramids, the question is, who is at point B?
Let me ask you this for people I'm sure listening will have the same questions, just to clarify. Now, this frequency is being caused, or the electromagnetism is being caused by the pyramid. Is it possible that that is a particular area that was already an electromagnetic field and they intentionally was built there for that reason?
Actually, the pyramid does not cause this particular frequency. The pyramid does not make energy from nothing. The pyramids are actually energy amplifiers. In order to understand the pyramid, we need to develop a new science, the pyramid science. And there are certain elements that are common for oldest and at the same time the biggest and the most superior pyramids. We don't have evolution when it comes to the pyramid science, because the knowledge has been brought. The biggest Chinese pyramids are at the same time the oldest and the most superior. Those that came later are inferior in material and other properties. The same thing in Egypt, the same thing in Bosnia or Mexico. What are the common elements? Well, number one, you need to have energy potent place. What does that mean? The pyramid builders always build pyramids over certain very strong energy sources. In the case of Bosnian pyramids, we have iron ore or iron plate very deep in the ground. Why iron? Because iron generates its own natural electromagnetism. So what the pyramid does, it sucks this electromagnetism, amplifying it. How do we know that it amplifies this energy? Because we've done measurements at the base of the pyramid and at the top. At the top is 50 times stronger. The next element, you always have underground water flows. Why underground water? Because once you have, for example, two parallel water flows at different depths, in between the electricity is generated. The next thing, the water moves, it releases negative ions. The next thing, natural magnetism. So you locate the most powerful geometrical shape, which is the shape of the pyramid. You orient it to the cardinal points, east, west, north, south, and then you have very powerful energy amplifier. Now, inside the pyramid, it's also very important. What we have in Bosnia, we have tunnels at 7 different levels, at 7 different depths. And they're laid out like a spiral. So this energy is coming from underground, going through underground tunnels below the pyramids, and then going through these tunnels inside the pyramid, spinning, going through the top in a very small radius. So we are getting extremely focused and powerful energy beam. And it's getting stronger as it moves away from the pyramid. So now we have concluded that somebody had some type of the interplanetary communications thousands of years back. Exactly when? Can be another question.
Unfortunately, I have to so rudely at this point interrupt Dr. Sam in order for us to take a commercial break. So everyone stay tuned, grab a drink, and smile. We'll be right back in a moment.
Have you ever wanted to spruce up the marketing material for your business? Have you ever wanted to turn those memories you have on slides or VHS tapes into DVDs? Have you ever wanted to create the perfect personalized video for a loved one? Then look no further. The sky is the limit with Chumbucket Studios. Anything is possible because it all begins with a little imagination. Please visit www.chumbucketstudios.com for more information.
Hi, this is Sam Moranto, investigative researcher, and you're listening to the Paranormal MD radio show. If you're really looking for an out-of-this-world encounter, make sure to listen.
Hello and welcome back. You are listening to the Paranormal MD radio show, and I am your host, Mary Marshall. Before the commercial break, we were speaking with Dr. Sam, who is the discoverer of the Bosnia Pyramids. So, Dr. Sam, please continue.
Yes, now the next question is, how old are the pyramids? You know, in archaeology we have 5 questions that require answers. Number 1 is what? What is this? Well, we know in Bosnia we have a huge pyramid complex. The next question is who? We don't have that answer yet. The third question is when, which I will answer in a second. The fourth answer, how? Now we can see that those pyramid builders were very advanced, making the best quality concrete. And the fifth question is the purpose. Obviously the purpose is you have a huge energy machines. Now when it comes to the question when, of course, we've done several analyses. The first one, the pyramids are covered by soil. Now if we can figure out the age of the soil, we can get the minimum age of the structure below. The Institute for Pedology analyzed the soil over the Bosnian pyramids. The age is between 12 and 15,000 years.
Wow.
Meaning the structure is much older. And then we have found organic materials, fossilized leaves, below the first row of concrete block, but above the second row, like in the sandwich. So those leaves came there during the construction phase. We've done radiocarbon dating, and we got the precise age of 34,000 years, meaning those structures were built over 30,000 years. Again, history changing fact. Why history changing? Because they teach us in schools that everything started with Sumerians and Babylon and Akkad, Assyria, ancient Egypt, 5, 6, 7,000 years ago. But in reality, this is just the only cycle of civilization that we live in. Before this one, there was another one, which got interrupted by the huge global catastrophe, 12,500 years, which is also known as the Big Flood. Before that one, there was another one, 18,000, 55,000, 75,000 years ago. So humanity simply lives cycle after cycle after cycle, and it's been at least 5 worlds for humans in the last 100,000 years. So in Bosnia, we have something that was built over 30,000 years ago. So obviously we were not primitive cavemen. We were either much more spiritually developed, or it was somebody else coming from some other place, building the pyramids on this planet. Now, we realize in order to understand that, science is not enough, even though we do apply interdisciplinary scientific techniques here. Energy is very important aspect. But then the third aspect is spiritual aspect. Not spiritual in the sense that, spiritual meaning religious, we believe in something, but spiritual in the sense of developing spiritual senses. In 21st century, when we talk about the senses, we talk about 5 physical senses and 1 spiritual, which we broadly call the 6th sense. We cannot be more wrong than that. The ancients knew that we have 5 physical and 30 spiritual senses. Number 1, every physical sense has its counterpart on spiritual level. We all can really see much more than the range that we use. We can hear much more. So we have 5 spiritual senses right there. But also, at some point in the past, we were able to exchange thoughts instead of writing stuff like what you're doing right now. Because writing is not a perfect way of communication. Exchanging thoughts, it is. Or telepathy. And telepathy is a spiritual sense, and we can develop it. The next thing, I remember in 1970s, 1980s, during the Cold War, KGB in Russia, or CIA here, or in Czechoslovakia, they had teams of very gifted people that they were developing, their senses. For example, I was watching on TV in 78, let's say. A girl from Russia, she was able to bend a fork which was under the glass with the power of her mind. This is called telekinesis. You can bend, you can move stuff with the power of your mind. So telekinesis is another spiritual sense. The next, if there is a very powerful energy field, there is a way to travel through this energy field. It is called teleportation. That's also an ability that we all have. All we really need is a place where such strong energy fields are generated. And guess what? They are generated by extremely big and strong pyramids, but also some other megalithic sites like megalithic circles, let's say Stonehenge in England, or Karnak in western France, by concentric circles, by huge concentration of the stone balls, stone spheres, which we have in Costa Rica, Mexico, Bosnia, Croatia, Int'l, and some others. So we realize that this is another spiritual sense that we can develop. The next spiritual sense, we know that all of us have those bioenergy fields called aura around our bodies. We talk about one field, but actually there are at least 7. Now, if we develop those senses, then we can see other people's aura. I can see your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 7th field. But then we can see different colors in aura. We can see different information in aura. We can even fix other people's aura if parts are missing, there is energy leak, energy healing, in other spiritual sense. So, in the past, the ancients knew that there were 30 spiritual senses, and having this pyramid energy, having the energy from megalithic sites, they were able to develop the spirituality. So spirituality is something that when you use spiritual senses, you can sense stuff beyond our physical world. So this was the 3rd aspect important in our project, and the 4th aspect is the healing aspect. Why I'm saying that? In the last 11 years, we've been witnessing a number of testimonies of people who visit Bosnian pyramids and underground tunnels under the Bosnian pyramids. We've seen people, they go with a high blood pressure in, they come back with a normalized blood pressure. They go with the high sugar, they come back with normalized. For example, we had a team from Czech Republic, from Prague, 6 of them, with a medical nurse. She took the blood, she measured the sugar in the blood. For example, if it is 3.5 to 7, it's a normal blood level, 7 to 11 risky, over 11 diabetes. People would come at 10, 11, 12. After they come back from the tunnels, it dropped to 5 or 6. We've seen also that people go with the pains inside, they come without the pain. People who have trouble breathing, people with asthma, they go inside. Deeper they go, they breathe better and better, they come back, they don't need those inhalators, air pumps no more. So we wanted to find scientific explanation what's happening inside the tunnel.
Right.
Well, 3 elements we measured. The number 1, the concentration of negative ions. The medical science know that more negative ions, better for us. Why? Because they clear the atmosphere from the dust, they raise the level of oxygen in our body, and they kill viruses and bacteria. In this little office where we are sitting right now, in Hotel Renaissance in Chicago, the concentration of negative ions is about 100 per cubic centimeter. We got outside to downtown Chicago, 400, a little bit fresher. We go out at the open to the villages, 800. By the river, 1500. On the top of the mountain in the forest, 4,000. In the Bosnian pyramid tunnels, 40,000. So somebody built underground healing facility. The second element we measured was the cosmic radiations. We live here on the surface of the planet. We love the surface, you can see the blue sky and the moon in the nights, it's very romantic, but a lot of cosmic radiations are coming our way, some of them very harmful. Our body cells fight those enemies. in the Bosnian Pyramid tunnels, no cosmic radiation 100 feet below the ground level. And element number 3, natural radioactivity. We walk on the surface and we are not even aware that a lot of places with the higher concentration of natural radioactivity are coming our way. In the Bosnian Pyramid tunnels, we measure it, no radioactivity. The moment you get inside, your body cells will not have enemies. What does that mean? It means they can start doing their job. What is their job? To fix the problem in our body, to start the regeneration process, to start the self-healing process. And that's the reason we are saying we need those 4 aspects in order to understand the pyramids. Nobody does that in the world except the Bosnian Pyramid Project. And that's probably one of the reasons why so many people from the mainstream science has been attacking us fiercely in the last 11 years.
I had the opportunity about a year ago or so to interview, you may or may not recognize the name, but Dr. Robert Schock. He had redated Giza. And he initially went in there for that during the course of going in for over 10 years, and finally more encouraged by his assistant. There were paranormal, as he described it, things that were going on, and it started leading him in the spiritual aspects of the pyramid and the energy and how this may work. When you started this all, did you have this entire vision of taking this step by step, or were you completely just as you went along and the information presented itself? Is that what directed you, that led you?
Well, this is a very serious scientific project. And I would say that not being only the most active archaeological sites, but also the project with the most scientific, including spiritual scientific information that we've received so far. Another important thing, we are very open. In the world of the archaeology, a lot of secrets. For example, Egyptian pyramids, you don't get a chance to hear the most interesting discoveries that they have. The matter of fact, we are getting a lot of hidden. There are a lot of hidden information. They don't get to go out. So what I said from the beginning was that this will be the most open archaeological project ever. And this is the fact that attracts so many independent researchers from different fields.
Yeah.
People, there are no secrets. People want to come, they want to test our samples independently. They can always do that. You cannot do that in Egypt, Mexico, or China. Now, so we have our open policy, we have our interdisciplinary scientific project, we are open for spiritual scientists, and there's a reason why we've been producing so many interesting results. Problem with the people like Schock, they cannot go to Egypt and independently research. They need to ask permission, and usually they don't get permission because only politically correct archaeologists, geologists can go to Egypt and research, but they need to tell them, hey, I want to research this, and this will be our results, even before they start. If they are going to confirm what Egyptologists are saying about the 4th dynasty rulers who built Egyptian pyramids, then they say, yes, you can work. We know that 25 years ago, when the Japanese geophysicists came there with their equipment to look for hidden chambers, they realized that those pyramids are also energy machines. But then Egyptologists threw them out of the country. They said, we don't need you to tell us these are machines. We just want you to find us, corpses or, pharaohs. So what I'm saying, the reason why we have such systematic approach is why we are producing so many results. Did I know 11 years ago that we're going to be getting all these results? That's what you asked me. The answer is, of course not. You start the project, and more information you are getting from different fields, you realize, hey, it opens 2, 3, or 5 more questions.
Right.
Let me find scientists from those fields. So, we have classical sciences, archaeology, geology, Egyptology, paleontology, pedology, but also we have satellite screening, geothermal analysis, georadar analysis, geophysical analysis. We have energy experts. They are all coming to us. So I would say a lot of new information for the pyramid science out there. So we are really pioneers in this field. A lot of people don't understand us. When they don't understand you, they either laugh at you or they attack you.
Right.
However, 20 or 50 years from now, they will be following our steps.
Absolutely.
And the reason why we are still in business is that thanks to our open policy, every year the volunteers are coming to our sites. Every year tens of thousands of visitors are coming to see for themselves. I know that very powerful enemies are against this project. Archaeological associations, institutes, Wikipedia and some others. However, being so open, people come, they can see for themselves, and once they go back, they say we've had life-changing experiences.
I have one last question here for you. You had kind of taken us back just a little bit. Because of these areas where the pyramids were built, being high energy areas, because it could not be primitive people as you've established. What are your theories? I mean, because how would they know that area was a high energy area to build there? What's your personal opinion or belief?
The oldest and the most superior pyramids in Egypt, Bosnia, Tibet, Peru and Mexico were built by more developed civilizations than us. Now we know that, of course, because they knew what was like 1 or 2 miles below the surface, and we have no way of knowing that. They knew that how to get certain energy fields and how to get very specific frequencies. 100 years ago, Nikola Tesla, a great inventor, he built famous Wardenclyffe Tower. After one experiment, he said that he had found means how to send thousands of horsepowers to any planet, regardless of their distance. And guess which frequency he was using? He was using 28 kilohertz frequency. That's the best frequency for the communication. Then we've been measuring also the ultrasound, the same frequency of ultrasound, 28 kilohertz. Why is that frequency important? This is the frequency of the levitation. You put a light object, let's say table tennis ball, above the speaker that produces 28 kilohertz ultrasound, the ball will start levitating. So they knew exactly what they were getting. They were getting very specific frequencies. How we can do that only with natural elements today? No way. They knew underground water flows, what frequency they are getting. They knew iron ore, which electromagnetic frequencies they were getting. They knew the power of the geometrical shapes. They knew the power of the spiral. They knew the power of sacred geometry elements like the number pi, 3.14, and so on and so forth. They knew the power of for example, in Bosnia we have 3 pyramids. When you connect their tops, you're getting, it's about 1.3 miles, you're getting perfect equilateral triangle, which is also part of sacred geometry. So using all these parameters, they were getting a perfect energy machines. And they have been working continuously, in the case of Bosnia, for 34,000 years, being the first perpetual motion machines. And that's the reason why they were more advanced than us.
Wow.
They were not primitive cavemen, but they were more intelligent civilization. So the term I prefer to use is the pyramids were built by intelligent hands, by more advanced civilization. Whether they were humans or not, at this point,
right.
As a scientist, I don't have enough arguments to say, so we don't know.
God, this is just absolutely fascinating. It's a lot of what you're talking about, and some of it I was taking notes because in a personal way, for what I do, is like, oh, I didn't know that, when writing it down. I seriously just cannot thank you enough for coming in and doing this interview. If you would, is there a website or a way people can find more information about you?
Yes, it's bosnianpyramid.org. bosnianpyramid.org.
All right. Well, thank you again, and I'll let you get back to the rest of the conference.
All right, thank you for your interest.
Thanks. Well, now we need to take a break, and we will be right back in just a minute, so stay tuned.
Hi, this is Robin Terry from Ashmore Estates. Ashmore Estates is located about a mile west of Ashmore, Illinois. It was a former almshouse or poor farm and then later a psychiatric care facility. If you're not familiar with Ashmore Estates, you might have seen us on Ghost Adventures, Season 5, Episode 1, or in a documentary called Chill in the Grave 2 by the Booth Brothers. There have been major improvements to the property since May of 2014. We have electrical, windows, restrooms, a separate team room, and even bunkhouses for overnight guests. I think you'll find the building an interesting place to perform an investigation, either at night or in the day. We also offer photo shoots, historical tours, and a location for movies to be filmed. Check us out on our Facebook page, Ashmore Estates, or on our website at ashmoreestates.net.
Hi, this is Chin Hee Park.
And this is Soon Hee Park. We're the Korean-Italian twin psychics.
We listen to the Paranormal MD radio show. Check it out. It's too cool.
Yeah, it is.
Hello and welcome back. You are listening to the Paranormal MD radio show, and I am your host, Mary Marshall. Hello and welcome back. I am here doing live interviews at the Global Pyramid Conference 2016. My guest that has joined me now is Robert Gilbert. Robert is a PhD, is a former U.S. Marine Corps instructor in nuclear biological chemical defense, with over 30 years of research into both mainstream and holistic health methods. He's the director of the Visoko, thank you, Institute for Holistic Studies in Asheville, North Carolina. He teaches both online and live trainings, including some of the topics of vibrational testing and healing, spiritual science, which we're going to have to talk about that one, sacred geometry, vibrational applications of crystals and gemstones. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So a little bit before, we get into some specific questions, can you tell me your journey? Like what led you to doing what you do now?
Yes, thank you. In the early 1980s, I was a U.S. Marine Corps instructor in the nuclear, biological, chemical warfare, defense, and survival field, as you mentioned. And at that time, I began to research conventional methods for surviving radiation, biological and chemical toxins, things of that kind. And I wanted to expand my understanding of it into holistic health and complementary health circles. One part of this was also that people normally learn things like biology, chemistry, and physics according to complex mathematical formulas. But the majority of people that I meet have a kind of post-traumatic stress disorder from high school math and want nothing to do with any of that.
I'd be one of them.
So I was fascinated to find that there are a whole series of scientific studies that are paid for, often by international organizations like NATO, in which biology, chemistry, and physics are examined according to pure geometric shape information. If you get a textbook like General Chemistry by Linus Pauling, you'll find that all these different chemical compounds are shown not with algebraic equations, but with pure shapes that would have been very familiar to people in the Greek mystery school from thousands of years ago. And so what we have in modern science and technology is a rediscover of the geometric basis of all of creation that's now being empirically found out one piece after another in biology, chemistry, and physics. This led me on the path of wanting to then study what we refer to today in metaphysics as sacred geometry. Sacred geometry being the divine patterns of creation that come from every spiritual tradition, understanding that core mystery of how is it that immaterial spirit creates a manifest physical world. And it does it through particular patterns, through particular shapes. where consciousness crystallizes into particular forms on the physical plane that then have specific energetic functions.
Could you give us an example of that?
Absolutely. So in the classical spiritual traditions of the world, they will teach their initiates particular types of spiritual practices involving concentration on certain types of geometric forms, or the actual use of geometric forms for energetic healing, or to construct three-dimensional geometric forms in their sacred builders' guilds. So for example, in India, they may have you meditate upon a particular sound vibration, which would be a mantra, and it matches a specific visual yantra or pictorial image. And they'll tell you in India that, for example, the seed syllable of creation, Om, if it was to be translated with the same vibration into a shape, would become the Sri Yantra. And so there's this idea here that all of the different qualities that we perceive in the world, shape, sound, color, number, proportion, angle, all these different qualities are in fact different ways of expressing the same universal spectrum of energy. And so we often say in holistic healing that this particular sound correlates to this particular color, for example. But this is true for all qualities. They all connect to one another through this universal vibrational spectrum. So from this beginning in studying sacred geometry and the relationship of it to modern science and technology, this took me over time into the field of looking at the energetic effects of geometric forms and into pattern information. If you look at multiple spiritual traditions and what they teach in their spiritual science, what are the key patterns they're teaching to their initiates as the key things you need to know and do to make permanent changes in the human energy field and in human consciousness? So that was one part of it. Another part of it is to be able to unite all the different vibrational sciences out there today that we use in holistic healing and for other purposes. We need to have a unified paradigm of how do we bring together the vibration from this shape, from this sound, from this angle, etc. We have to have an understanding of some type of spectrum of subtle energy. Just like we have mastered electromagnetic energy today by having an understanding of the electromagnetic spectrum. And that allows us to know what part of the spectrum we can apply to look through a human body, or
Right.
to look into, to be able to transmit wireless information, or to send power through a copper wire to turn a dynamo, those types of things. And we've cracked the code of the physical plane with what we call the periodic table of elements. That is basically the entire spectrum of all matter that occurs on the planet. So today we create all of our technology through finding exactly the right element off the periodic table to connect to exactly the right frequency from the electromagnetic spectrum, and presto, you've got a cell phone, and you can now transmit a voice and information wirelessly. Well, what they've left out is what every spiritual tradition talks about as the level above the physical. So in a sense, the electromagnetic is below the physical, and it is to some degree, the actual decayed vital energy or life force, the chi, ki, prana, from a yet higher level. And so every classical tradition says that above the physical plane, there is a level of vital force. And every classical tradition on the planet has its type of energetic healing. Holistic health, whether it's Ayurveda or Chinese medicine, it's all based on understanding these types of subtle energies and vital energy. So what we need to have now is an understanding of the complete spectrum of vital energy, of subtle energies that are too subtle to be picked up by electromagnetic equipment. And so that then led me into this research into modern-day Egyptian biogeometry. And I started studying this with my friend Dr. Ibrahim Karim from Cairo around the year 2000. And he then introduced me to an entire body of work from some incredible French researchers from the early 1900s that's almost forgotten today, where they essentially created an entire spectrum that could be directly tested for all of the invisible vibrations that are too subtle for electromagnetic equipment to pick up. So this means that whether you're testing a shape or a sound or an angle or an invisible wave or the energy coming from a healer's hands, we can now detect the specific quality of energy that's coming from it and understand its functions within a complete spectrum of these subtle energies. So that's a bit of my background and what I do today as the director of the Visoko Institute in Asheville, North Carolina, with the live and online trainings.
It is wow. That was, first of all, you spoke beautifully in explaining this. That was great.
Thank you.
God, there's a few different questions. I'm going to backtrack to a couple things that you had said. You'd mentioned about that the electromagnetic field is really more considered like a decay of things. And I think that a lot of times, one of the things that I always talk about is everything has a spectral signature.
Mm-hmm.
And that people, it's really hard for us to understand when something is tangible. What makes this something solid versus when you're saying, well, it's a frequency. What?
Yes.
When you're saying it's a decay of that vibrate, how did you come upon that? What brought you,
Mm-hmm.
to that point?
Yes. So one part of it is if you look at the work of Nikola Tesla. Tesla, of course, created our alternating current electrical system that we use around the world today to be able to power all of our homes and offices. And one of his concepts, he said, all this energy that we're using in modern electromagnetism, what we're using in our alternating current systems, what we talk about with the electromagnetic spectrum, he says these are retarded Hertzian waves. That was his term for it, retarded Hertzian waves. He says there's something else that's on a whole nother level beyond this. These retarded Hertzian waves are slower than the speed of light. He said there's something else that's faster than the speed of light, and it's what he called scalar waves, which is also a concept in modern electromagnetic theory, but they didn't take it quite where Tesla took it to. Now, in esoteric circles, they also have this concept. So the great Rosicrucian teacher from Europe, Rudolf Steiner, who developed the Waldorf school system and biodynamic agriculture and all these other things, when he talked about this, he said, look, we've got the vital force that every classical tradition understood and worked with. This is the actual higher vibrational energy that animates the physical body. When this chi, ki, prana, whatever your tradition calls that vital force, moves into to animate the physical body, it then goes through a process where it begins to break down. It has to slow way down to animate dense physical matter. So that then leads to a breakdown of this etheric energy into a lower form. And so as it slows down and begins to break down, you then have the radiating energies of the electromagnetic spectrum. So the electromagnetic spectrum is directly related to life energy, but it's when it's passed through the physical plane and begun to decay or slow down, that's what we can detect today with standard electromagnetic equipment.
Interesting, okay. So it's almost, I think for anybody that might be listening, it's almost like a demodulation of a radio signal.
Yes, when it begins to fragment or decay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it has the capacity, because it's at a grosser level, like gets into the lower levels of the physical, it has the capacity to do things like to push energy through a copper wire to make a physical motor turn, which is somewhat challenging to do with these more subtle energies. But the subtle energies can create an actual living being in a way that you can't just by plugging something into a power outlet. You can't necessarily give a being life again. That's the Frankenstein myth. It's not quite the same thing, but they are linked. And so what we need to have today, in addition to our understanding of the electromagnetic spectrum and the periodic table of elements, which is what all of our technology is based on, is the complete spectrum of all of the subtle energies that actually give life and provide healing and things of that kind, which again all classical traditions worked with, but we can understand based on French research of the 1900s, now sadly almost forgotten, exactly what every one of the vibrational qualities is in that complete spectrum.
It's interesting because I don't think that I had ever heard, I'm not saying I don't think, I know that I have not heard this particular report, and I'm really fascinated by it, especially too, when you think about this, you're talking about 1900, that this had already started,
Mm-hmm.
is that somebody was so able to think outside the box for that period of time.
Yes.
To be able to look at this and say, okay, there's a pure form of this energy, and this is the subtleties, and going and looking at this is amazing to me. Now, one of the other things too with this, though, now, and I'm a big person who I always bring up crystals, not in a necessarily what people would think in a spiritual kind of way, but why this may work. Because one of the things early on that I would hear psychics, mediums all the time. They're wearing crystals or and they're well. It centers me.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd always hear about this. It centers me. It centers me. And as that person on the outside, like I'm sure a lot of people listening, they're like, "What does that mean?"
Right.
And then I started to learn really what crystals do and how they're formed and the energy that is made and so forth. So I'm mentioning all of this for anybody listening so that it's fascinating because there is root for a lot of this, like you had mentioned with the periodic tables, that this is rooted in science as far as what we're learning, but it ascends beyond that, I guess.
Yes.
So working with that in a scientific way, how crystals are a valuable tool. What is your interpretation and how did they fit into the scenario of what you teach and talk about?
At the Visoko Institute, we break our studies into two parts. One part is spiritual science. With spiritual science, we deal with the science of consciousness and the whole issue of the greater spiritual purposes of human life and the influences on human life. And that's from looking for pattern similarities between multiple traditions, for what are the core things taught to the initiates of multiple traditions as the essential aspects of enhancing consciousness and of developing the human energy body further. Then we have the other side of the vibrational science. How do we directly work with the subtle vibrations and apply them for beneficial purposes? So from a spiritual science perspective, we need to see that crystals are the most stable anchor of divine vibrations on the planet. Whereas a human being may live for 100 years if they're lucky, a plant will grow and decay within a matter of months or years. Stones can last for 1 billion years in their span of holding a specific vibration. So with the understanding from classical traditions of everything in the physical world as a type of condensation, a crystallization literally, of some type of higher vibrational force and higher consciousness from a higher realm, what these stones are actual crystallizations of higher divine vibrations into their most stable form. That's why virtually every classical tradition uses stones. Specific stones for specific purposes, because specific vibrations are locked into the stone. At that point, we then get into the vibrational science of using the stone. Why it was that Muhammad in Islam was known for wearing a carnelian, why there are specific stones associated with the New Jerusalem, why there are specific stones of the breastplate of Aaron and the Temple of Solomon. They all have specific vibrational qualities. One fascinating development is that, although it's been hidden until very recently, the Chinese Taoist tradition has just recently begun to release their knowledge about what they call stone medicine and the vibrational healing effects within Chinese medicine of different types of stones. So what I do with the vibrational work that we teach is to actually use this method of testing the complete vibrational spectrum, and with that we can identify exactly what vibration is coming from what type of stone. Knowing what the vibration is tells us what the function of that energy will be with that stone that's most effective for it. And it'll also allow us to do things like see if the stone has been adulterated in some way. One of the great difficulties with crystal work today is that the gem trade in the last 30 years has begun to irradiate and artificially heat and to dye stones to improve their color to make them more commercially.
It changes.
Absolutely.
It changes the frequency.
It does, and so the problem was that very often it's hard for people to identify if that had been done. And after testing this for some time, I found that using these vibrational testing methods that we teach at the Visoko Institute, we're able to directly test any stone, and there's one specific vibrational marker that will tell you if it's been irradiated with gamma radiation, which is commonly done to blue topaz and many other precious stones to deepen their color. But it not only neutralizes their beneficial vibration, it makes them energetically quite toxic.
Ooh.
Then there is a different vibrational marker to show if it's been artificially heated, because they'll artificially heat these things in a commercial oven, also as a method to deepen the color. And there's another vibrational marker that will show us if it's been artificially dyed. So with this, we can know not only what is the essential function and quality of the different stones through direct vibrational testing rather than from anybody's external source, But also we can then find if the stone really has the vibrational qualities needed for therapeutic purposes, or if they've been somehow affected through these modern interventions that often harm the quality of the stone.
It would probably then be in a person's best interest to get stones in crystals in the rawest form. Would it not? Because as soon as you get all the polished stones and all that, again, it's essentially changing the frequency on it. To be honest, it's not something that I really thought about before.
Yeah. Well, we found that particularly with the gamma irradiation that is now becoming common, and many of the Brazilian stones now being brought into the country and from other places around the world are now commonly irradiated, that again not only neutralizes the beneficial vibration, it makes it quite energetically toxic. Now, it won't test as radioactive with a Geiger counter, which is why the Gemological Society say, oh, it's fine to do that, as long as the color change is permanent. But for an energetic basis, it really harms the quality of the stone. So, to get a good quality stone, you can go with the rawest quality stone possible, but also with these vibrational testing methods, they can be directly tested to see if they have the correct vibration. And so that has two aspects. One is testing with the vibrational spectrum to see exactly what vibration is present in the stone, and testing for both the beneficial and detrimental vibrations. And it's almost like a type of spectrum analysis that's done vibrationally. Or we can also do testing for the effects of strengthening or weakening that the stone has on the entire energy field or on specific functions within the human body or energy field, to see that, well, maybe it hasn't been adulterated, but that particular stone may not be the right one for this person.
Right.
So, for example, in the Ayurvedic tradition, they would say that for certain people, a ruby would be a wonderful stone. But for people that have too much heat in their body already, the heating effects of the ruby can actually be quite disastrous. So we want to have two types of vibrational testing. One of the objective vibrations that are present or absent in the stone, and one of the exact effects of that vibration on a living energy field of a specific person who's going to be using it.
It's really interesting to me because, often I think, again, a lot of people listening who are familiar with it at all, when you go for stones, are saying, feel what feels right for you. And if you, get a necklace, a crystal necklace or something, and it doesn't feel right, it's not. If it is not matching, it's not syncing with your, your vibration. With that being said, it sounds like sometimes, though, this could be not that it's not syncing vibrational. I was going to say vibrationally,
Yes.
But
No, that's a good word.
because of it being toxic, because of the other changes.
That's
to
right.
it.
That's
It's-
absolutely
I
right.
didn't realize that.
It's very common. I went to the Tucson Gem Show just a few months ago, and I went with a group of Chinese medical practitioners who use stones all the time in a type of Taoist Chinese medicine. And they were constantly asking me to test the stones before they bought them, because they knew what the effect the stones should have in Taoist medicine to begin with, but they had no method of actually testing to see if the stones had been adulterated or not, because until about 30 years ago, it wasn't even an issue.
Yeah.
It's a recent development.
Yeah, I just had this conversation earlier. We were looking at some of the vendors here at the conference, and I was just commenting, and I said, I am very particular about where I get my stones from,
Yes.
because you don't know. And a lot of
Yeah.
times I had found, like, where I had thought I had, I want to say maybe it was citrine, or it was, but a crystal. It was. They had changed it. They literally, as I took away the outer covering that they had on there, and I don't know what it was made of, silica.
Yes.
I don't know what it was, silicone of some kind of whatever. It was like, this isn't even the stone.
Right.
And I thought, oh boy, and how many times the average person isn't going to know.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, citrine is one of the most important stones for things like Chinese medicine and vibrational purposes, and it's greatly esteemed in many traditions. The problem is that probably the majority of citrine sold on the market today is actually heated amethyst. They heat it up to a certain degree and it turns the purple color into an orange color. but it's a much deeper burnt orange color than actual citrine has. And it not only does not work as true citrine, although they sell it for a very high price as if it was true citrine, it also no longer works as amethyst because the heating process has damaged the vibration of it.
I can relate to this in different ways because I deal with more different type of paranormal topics, but the big thing is all the time is talking about this. So somebody comes in and they're doing a paranormal investigation and they come in and flash their light. Well, you just introduced an entire new energy into that room, into that place, besides the practical of just how it's going to affect your vision for the next 30 minutes, because everybody always, does these investigations in the dark.
Yeah.
But in a different sense, every time you add something in to that room, equipment-wise, light-wise, you're changing what was the original setup and what somebody else might have experienced something there.
Absolutely.
They just happen to be walking by and, I see, see somebody, let's just say. At any rate, now you also did too, are you still involved with the Institute of Noetic Science or at all as far as that or that type of thing?
I have friendly relations with them. I don't have a direct affiliation. I did a major article for them before on sacred geometry. That was a while back.
And I'm going to have one more quick question for you, because we are watching your time. You're a man in demand here at this conference. Is that, what are your thoughts on a collective consciousness, and then how does that affect us as individuals? I know that's not a quick question, but nonetheless, we'll give it a shot.
The short answer to that is that if you examine this from a vibrational perspective, as you know, every thought, every emotion, every action that we generate creates a specific energetic effect. With the vibrational science, we can see exactly what that vibrational emanation is. So everything that we're generating and broadcasting out from our field all the time affects all the people around us for better or for ill and can create a cascade effect. And so there are certain types of detrimental thoughts, emotions, etc. that will affect not only the energies of a person, they can affect locations, particularly when that gets reinforced over a period of time. So mass consciousness is often a vibrational phenomenon of to what level they're able to hold the beneficial vibrations and how well that is reinforced by every person who is like a pillar within this overall energetic structure of the location. Everything is always an alchemical exchange of vibration. And so whenever we bring multiple vibrations together, the alchemy of that is what creates a beautiful magic or sometimes a terrible vibrational soup that we have to then navigate through.
All right. Well, we have run out of time. Like I said, you're a man in demand. Thank you so much for taking time out and speaking with us today. And could you give us the website so that people can learn more about you?
Yes, thank you. The website is www.vesica.com, and Vesica is spelled V as in Victor, ESICA. .org. Vesica.org.
All right, we'll make sure. All that information will be up on the website and attached to the program, so you can check it out. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
We are going to need to take a break, but before we do so, I wanted to let you know that a partial sponsor for tonight's show is Chum Bucket Studios. Chum Bucket Studios is run by Jay Bachochin. Jay is both talented and creative, and I say that from a personal perspective, as he designed and put together my banner that I use at conferences for the Paranormal MD. As a matter of fact, in the conference circuit, he is quite popular. So if you have tabletop displays, wall displays, banners, other type of printed materials that you may need, I highly recommend using Chum Bucket Studios. Very fairly priced and very good work.
Have you ever wanted to spruce up the marketing material for your business? Have you ever wanted to turn those memories you have on slides or VHS tapes into DVDs? Have you ever wanted to create the perfect personalized video for a loved one? Then look no further. The sky is the limit with Chum Bucket Studios. Anything is possible because it all begins with a little imagination. Please visit www.chumbucketstudios.com for more information.
Hi, this is Robin Terry from Ashmore Estates. Ashmore Estates is located about a mile west of Ashmore, Illinois. It was a former almshouse or poor farm and then later a psychiatric care facility. If you're not familiar with Ashmore Estates, you might have seen us on Ghost Adventures, Season 5, Episode 1, or in a documentary called Chill in the Grave 2 by the Booth Brothers. There have been major improvements to the property since May of 2014. We have electrical, windows, restrooms, a separate team room, and even bunkhouses for overnight guests. I think you'll find the building an interesting place to perform an investigation, either at night or in the day. We also offer photo shoots, historical tours, and a location for movies to be filmed. Check us out on our Facebook page, Ashmore Estates, or on our website at ashmoreestates.net.
Hello and welcome back. You are listening to the Paranormal MD radio show, and I am your host, Mary Marshall. I wanted to let everyone know that if you are looking for more information on tonight's guest, their websites, books, you can go to theparanormalmdradio.com. All guest information will be listed there. Also, you are able to listen and download a podcast of tonight's show, as well as the last 2-3 shows that have aired will be available for podcast download also. You can also check out our YouTube channel, The Paranormal MD, and for a whole list of shows, past and present, with different topics that you may be interested in. I also want to let you know of some of my upcoming speaking engagements. I am going to be at I have a lot of things going on. This mostly in the fall. But what I do want to tell you about is there is a great event happening. It's Ashmore Estates 100th birthday special. It's a paranormal event on Friday, September 9th, 2016. It is going to be a weekend long of just awesome fun. Guys from Ghost Lab are going to be there. Christopher Booth, Rosalind Brown, Ben Hansen from Fact or Fiction, and so on and so forth. Those are some of the paracelebs, as well as a slew of other great speakers. And I want to remind you, so that you don't forget, that Haunted Ashmore Estates also offers year-round investigations. The owner there, Robin, has done a fantastic, fabulous job in renovating this place. So all your needs are met. There is electricity, there's bunkhouses, and so on and so forth for your investigative needs. Then in October, I will be speaking at the Chicago Dark Shores Ghost Conference and also at the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference. These are two great events. I suggest checking those out as well. I also want to give a shout out to our other sponsor for tonight's show, Chum Buckets Studios. Chum Buckets has done my banner that I use, designed it, and done the banner for my conference displays. Any of your printing needs, videography needs, I suggest going to chumbucketstudios.com. And now let's get back to another interview from the Global Pyramid Conference, which was recorded live from the International and Scientific Global Pyramid Conference. Hello and welcome back to the Paranormal MD. I'm Mary Marshall, your host. I am doing live interviews at the Global Pyramid Conference 2016. And currently on board as my guest here as I do these live interviews is Igor Piton. I'm going to have you say your last name.
Pitonek.
Is that close enough?
Close enough.
And let me tell you a little bit about him. Discovered the physics and geometry and electrical principles of pyramids, now ascended pyramids, and how these structures can help improve your meditative state, your energy, to intensify your inner light, and protect you from lower vibration. Welcome again.
Thank you for having me here.
Tell me a little bit about this. Tell me a little bit about your history and what led you down this path.
My history, I finished university with a master's degree in electrical engineering, and science or physics have been very close to me since early ages of my life. But also at the same time, I was searching for God, whether it was from the a religion standpoint of view, and later, which have not satisfied my desires completely, I switched to spiritual realm of searching. And I, in my bottom of my at the bottom of my heart, I knew that this is the path I should be following. And so I was lucky enough at the early beginnings to find my spiritual teacher, which led me through the early stages of my development. And as soon as I was ready with my physical body to handle more energy and more information, I started receiving messages on my own, and this is how it developed.
So in a mediumship way?
Yes, in the mediumship way, yeah, because most of the information that I receive is from etheric realms, and it's although I do have a guidance in the physical form in my teachers, and I search a lot of information online, I would say, or in books. It still, a lot of it is very confusing until you get that right type of information, and you can confirm it in a mathematical or physical way that it's really true. So this is how it works for me.
When you say spiritual teachers,
yes,
what or who do you mean?
I have a spiritual teacher in Canada who I met about 10 years ago. Her name is Bardhanya Swami Tiara, and she is a very enlightened being that helps with the ascension process of the earth. She have gained that rank from spiritual teachers in India. And they gave her a title of Swami, which is pretty high in spiritual realms. So she was the one that took me on board and guided me through all the way, I would say, from the early beginnings until now. And I still attend her classes on a weekly basis and take advice. And it's at this time it's more about meditation and helping the earth itself to go through the process of the transition, how we transition from
literally the planet Earth,
yes,
transition rather than the people.
Yes. Well, I work with people, but people is the side effect of me working in a higher, I would say, realm to help the earth itself, because the earth is connected to people, and somebody has to make up the desire for the earth itself. It's a bio connection between the inhabitants and the planet itself that make the things happen. It's a mutual relationship.
So it's maybe I don't want to use necessarily the word the healing, but of the planet's aura frequency as
sort of, yeah, because we as a unit we travel in different regions of the universe now, and since there is that basic motion of spinning around the center of the universe, which we call Milky Way, and we are traveling very fast, and although the distances are very far and it takes a long time for the Earth to make one spin around it, we are getting closer and closer to the center of it, so which increases our speed of traveling and increases the speed of light, and then that's why that transition has happened in the past few years and will continue, in my opinion, for quite some time until we fully transition to a new era.
When you are dealing with different guides,
yes,
because everybody works a little bit different, you know, as far as whether psychic or mediums and that type of thing also, but where information may be coming from, because it's not just directly related. Like a lot of mediums are working with people, and they might be getting information, but you're working in a more worldly sense.
Yes.
So where are your guides
Fit.
coming from, and
Fit
how
in the
does
scheme of things.
fit into the scheme of things? Thank you.
Yeah, well, they fit in the way that this energy used to be here a long time ago, and particularly I can connect it to the pyramids. There is quite a bit of technology that they had left behind them at the early stages of civilization, which we discover now, and all these people being at this conference is all about about the pyramids. So I think that the energy that's supplying the information has the knowledge, has the potential to make things happen again. The problem is that the information is so powerful that it doesn't want to reveal itself very easily, because simply it can be misguided and misused as it used to be at the time when they delivered the technology to the earth. So it's sort of like you have to prove yourself to be the person capable of handling such a information, and second, what do you do? What is your intention of how you present it and all that? It's a learning process that we all go through, basically.
And I would think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of this is through the process of initially through meditation.
Yes, absolutely. It's through the process of meditation, and then through the process of clearing yourself out. As long as you clear your emotional and mental baggage that you carry with you from lifetime to lifetime and from experience to experience, then you remove more of yourself out of the equation, and you just deliver the pure message.
Interesting. So how would you, when you're saying kind of clear yourself?
Yes.
What is that? What does that mean, and how would one do that?
Well, there are two ways. You can either work on your virtues, and that changes your etheric body or etheric structure of yourself, or you can work on your etheric structure of yourself and then changes your virtues. So it's a double-edged sword, basically, but it's a mutual relationship. Basically, the basic structure of the human needs to be understood. Once you understand that the etheric part of yourself, then you can start physically affecting the etheric centers, chakra system, the meridians, the nadis, and all that, and become cleaner and cleaner, because the energy is simply stored based on your past experiences, based on your soul level connections, based on your present experiences in this lifetime, and all the relationships that you had in many millennia when you were incarnated. So it's a lot of work to be able to clean yourself to the point where you are putting yourself out of the message. You leave your ego out. You leave your own knowledge. That's why I am hesitant to read the books a lot, because you are reading the material of the author, and which is a subjective message. You are not, in my opinion, producing that. It's something that you are taking on. But I'm not saying not to read. Right. What I'm saying is, in my opinion, it's more beneficial to meditate, to sit in a quiet space than take on a book that vibrates at a certain frequency. Which right. It's a learning process. You have to pick and choose. It's not that I wouldn't read. I used to read a lot. I read less these days, but I still read. I still search for information. There's a lot of misinformation online, so you have to
too. Yeah.
You have to pick and choose what fits your scheme of things.
Well, right, and individually, what your purpose in this lifetime, what you need to be doing, this might be a different process for you than the next person.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's an individual process, so there's nothing for me to say about any others. It's everybody goes through the same evolution process, and it's an individual path of the seeker that right. That changes the outcome.
Everybody's a piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
And that's how you get together and create that big picture.
Absolutely.
So as a medium, do you only have contact and connection through guides? Do you do medium with people? Do you ever read do read. I hate that word, but read people because that's not really the.
I read people when they ask me to read them. I have a table upstairs where we help whoever's come and ask for help. We can deliver the message, but I don't go out and tell people. I used to do it once. As soon as I learned, I was thinking like, wow, there's so much work. Everybody needs to be changed. No, it's not what it is. It's everybody's choice. It's everybody's choice of how they want to progress. Now I see things that I could easily remove, but it's not up to me. It's up to them. It's up to the seeker itself to seek the change. And if they don't want to change, then it's their choice.
And when you say remove, you mean things like if they're in their aura, in their, their bioelectric field, that there could be tears or something in that way that.
Yeah, well, once you have the compassion, when you develop the compassion itself in yourself and feel the empathy for others and bring the unconditional love to others, then you can command. And once you can command, then you can command, because of this is how the things work. From the higher standpoint, you can command the lower energy, and but people, if they're not ready to be clean, then you don't command, because I understand
so
that
you can actually shift energy.
Yes.
Ah, that's fascinating. I really wasn't aware. I have not asked this question of other mediums. I wonder if this is that something that most mediums can do, or again, is
well,
it more
I think
into
it's come through the compassion itself. The compassion is the byproduct of spiritually developing yourself, and when you are compassionate enough, you bring the unconditional love through other realms. It's not me who's healing here; it's the energy that stands behind me. I always say that there is a big entourage behind me, but I'm just joking here, because but this in a certain terms, it is how it is.
Right.
It's not me that's doing the healing, because I am just a physical person that as everybody else. You're
the tool.
I'm the tool basically of them, and then they're using me to through them and through my will and through their will, we're doing a mutual job here that is affecting whoever we contact with.
Have you ever been out and expecting to speak with a guide giving you a message and had an unexpected, I want to say like a relative or somebody you just didn't expect of a person to come through with something completely different than...
You know what? I don't work in these days with the human energy or the lower energy.
Just
it's more about the laws itself, because I'm more into geometrics and mathematics at this point. So I try to understand how this order of things work, and this is I'm trying to develop what this is all about and how it works. So the stuff like your grandma is on the other side. Yes, I mean it is a personal thing, but I don't go that route. My focus is more on the global level at this time.
Which is, I think, great. I mean, that really does. So in raising the frequency, it's interesting to me because your approach is more to the planet, to the Earth, but equally as well, if you're raising the individual human's frequency,
yes,
wouldn't that also feed universally to
It does, but working at the individual level takes a long time and a lot of effort here. So obviously the law of squares work here, so more people jump on the wagon and can join the ride, then all of us will be better at the final outcome. But it takes time, so that's why we produce the device, or I call it device, but it's really just a pyramid structure that hopefully people understand more and more. And
what is it? Can you tell me specifically what about the pyramids is used as, or why is it a tool? Why is it useful?
It is a tool that uses omnipresent prana. That's omnipresent and fully potentially powerful. and we're trying to use the energy of the earth and the sun to focus to the certain frequency, because we understand that it's all about the frequency and the harmonics. So it's about the combination of certain frequencies, how you join them together, that can alter the state of mind and can alter the consciousness of the people for better, because ultimately it is about your body, it's about your physical body. And as soon as you can clear and clean and synchronize your physical body, then you can just experience tremendous growth.
With the planet coming into a new age, and I don't know again if that's the right terminology, but in a new age, it's
Yes.
shifting.
Yes.
And there essentially is an ascension occurring. How I know this is going to seem like a really strange question, but how long is this process, and is this something that has occurred before, but then some natural tragedy, or ice age took people in the ice age, but
Well, it's there is evidence that this was happening before. There is evidence in archaeological research that there are cycles in the earth, and then that means that the earth itself goes through the stages of development, its own development of evolution, what we call evolution. And so to answer your question, yes, I think we have experienced it before. Whether we experienced it to the point where we're going to go now, it's hard to say, because I think as the earth, it progresses. We, as a civilization, used to be very advanced, and there's many of facts in history that points that civilization used to be advanced, and much more advanced, hopefully, than how we are right now. But this is a different type of evolution right now. It wasn't about technology at that time. Now we're going to the age of heart and love, and this is completely different. So I don't think the Earth has been at this type of stage before. So I think this is something new for everybody here on this ride. And it's simply because how you look at the geometrics, how the vortex of the entire universe works. We used to be further out from the center, and when you spin around the center, and you always come closer and closer, right? As an entire unit. I'm talking about the sun with all the planets itself traveling as a unit. Now we travel around the center and we come closer and closer. So this is what it is. It's not about the spinning around the sun itself, but it's spinning around the universe center. So when we get closer, obviously we have to increase the speed. It's just the physics. When you open up the drain, the water on the outside spins less than the water on the inside. So that spinning motion of itself is what's increasing the vibration. So there's no stoppage of that, because it's a natural law. We have to go through this. It's just up to us, whoever's going to make it or not, in a sense, because once the vibration is increased, which is happening already, you can see it in the people call it the warming, the global warming effect. And they're blaming it on a carbon footprint. In my opinion, it's not the carbon footprint. It's the vibration. It's the spinning motion of the Earth as a unit that increases the vibration of the entire unit, which includes the sun and all the other planets. So because there is evidence that it's not only the Earth temperature, but all the other planets are raising their temperature. So how can we affect the temperature of the Mars? Right? We can't with our carbon footprint.
Right.
So it's the position of ourself within the bigger scheme of things.
What does the world look like when we've gotten to the other side, and how are we as humans part of that? What is our part? What is that going to be like?
Well, in my opinion, it's going to be more compassionate. compassionate society. We will understand each other based on individual needs. We won't cookie cut the whole thing and say you have to do this, and this. Even though everybody will be individual and there has to be an order, there just simply has to be an order in how the society works, but it's going to be more compassionate society. So it's going to look for more individual needs of the weaker members and the stronger members helping the weaker members raise them up.
Now, do you think that will also affect, in a conscious energy sense, the way we communicate with each other?
Yes, obviously. I think that once you develop the sense of receiving messages, this is your sixth sense. You know telepathically a lot of things. And yes, so once you evolve and develop more and more, the language will, as a spoken language, will become less and less needed tool for communication.
You know, it's interesting because I didn't want to lead you by saying that, but that's exactly what I was thinking, is that at some point, language is going to become unnecessary.
Yes.
Just because of where we have developed as people.
Absolutely.
You know, I often think this even about what we consider, you know, otherworldly beings that may be out there, and you know, they're saying, well, there's a telepathic communication. I'm like, you know, that might be us. If I thought, you know,
it is
thousands of years in the future, you know.
All of it is happening at the same time.
Right,
so,
exactly, thank you.
Yes, it is us in the future. You can change time in
dimension
and dimension at the same in the present moment. So
I think one of the things would be is on a practical note for people who are listening, what would be the best way for them to try on a personal sense, you know, especially if they're just starting out, to raise their own vibration, and I would assume it's through meditation, but do you have some maybe tips, some information?
Well, I did it through yoga meditations and chakra breathing. In my opinion, that's the most important aspect that you can be working through to work on yourself. As you know, as probably all the people in a spiritual community know, this is a very basic, you should understand the very basic of your structure. So that's the chakra system, how it works, how can you affect the chakra centers, and what it is all about. And then through the breathing, because the breath itself carries the energy, you're able to clean your energetic basic structure. And this is how I did it. There is a meditation that I used for 1,000 days consecutively, and that actually changes your etheric structure. They're saying that once you do it for 1,000 days, it's a permanent change. So because if you do something for a short time, yes, you are changing the scheme of things, but then when you go back and stop doing the things, you very slowly slip away and come back to where you used to be. So there is a certain time that you have to give the organs, the physical body to be able to hold. It's like a storage. You have to pump the water into the like reservoir, cellular memory, you know, to affect them. And it's not an easy work. I know it doesn't take a lot. It perhaps takes 10-15 minutes a day, but you have to dedicate your time to yourself if you want to achieve something in that realms.
You know what, I think it is such an easy to do thing, and it isn't that time consuming. I will admit, I'm one of those people that is forever saying, I really need to meditate. I'm going to start doing, you know, and it just keeps going on. And then I attempt, and then it falls to the wayside. And the entire time, I know I really do need to be doing it, but I don't. I think that, again, everybody, meditation. I have one person that I was talking to, and they said, everybody has a different thing. Some people have music that they like to listen to. Some people just like the silence. There's no right way. It's what works for you.
Yeah, there's no right way. I work with music. I work with sound. I work with pyramids. I used to do a lot of yoga. So I can tell, based on what I've experienced, that yes, there's many tools that you can use. It's your dedication and your desire that shifts the experiences. So if you wanna, whatever you focus in your own time, then this is where you're shifting your attention, and this is what's strengthening in your surroundings. So other things are falling behind.
Right. Well, what are your thoughts on? Because we were talking about like meditation, and as far as music, or it's usually music, but there's so many different people now who are working with certain frequencies that will resonate according to your chakra. Now, do you recommend that type of?
I work with that too.
See? Yeah,
I work with sound. I just did a speech today talking about the sound itself, how the sound is structured based on the body. Actually, the body is structured based on the sound. So all the chakras resonate with a precise frequency,
they do, like C sharp.
Yes, exactly. So it goes C, D, E, and then it goes F sharp, H. So all those frequency, I know them, I work with them, but in my opinion, you have to be more knowledgeable to use the frequency, because frequency is very specific. When you work with frequencies, it's like an address. Imagine internet address. Internet address has, when you look behind the name, it has numbers, right? So it has sequence of numbers, and the numbers signify the location and what it is. So let's say the internet address of certain site has a number 192.354.25.1. Okay, so all those numbers signify the region, then the subregion, the city, the street, the house, the device.
Right.
And in the body, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same structure. There is a basic bija sound, which is the main chakra sound, but then it has sub-harmonics, sub-addresses of what you want to affect, which part of your body you want to affect, based on the undertone, overtone, and all the harmonics. So it's exactly structured like an internet address. Once you play the sound, you can affect the particular, very particular, every joint can be affected with the sound. But you need to know how the body is structured. And but working with the pyramids, it's quite different. The pyramid uses all spectrum of light as focused into the certain frequency. So having been exposed to the entire spectrum of the frequencies doesn't put you in a position not knowing which part to use.
That makes a lot of sense.
But sound can be far more expressive and more potent, in the sense that if you know particularly which sound to use, then you can address the particular reason in a very short time.
Well, because it also would relate to putting your brainwaves into certain states. You know, from beta to this, to whatever. That I'm sure the sound itself is going to...
The brain waves is based on your stress levels. If you can remove the outside conditions that are affecting your brain waves, then you can slip into meditative state very easily.
Interesting. The reason is because I was thinking about that for myself, of attempting to do that. I did have somebody on the show, and they had a music, and it was all this that they had put into it as far as the frequencies and this and how it just very specific. And being a newbie into this part of the, I don't want to say, I guess spirituality, is that, people are using it for other healings as far as, pain and headaches and those other types of physical ailments. Because this also, meditation is good for this, or is that again simply that those are all byproducts, of aligning the chakra? Is that?
Yeah, the physical pain is a byproduct of not being aligned properly, it's, in my opinion, all the diseases have been caused by emotional or mental stress that the seeker has exposed himself to. So it's a byproduct of the circumstances, basically. But the circumstances are never, in my opinion, they're never accidental. They are always incidental based on the state of the seeker itself. So in the short terms, you create your own reality.
Yeah, that's true. Right, exactly. Well, I think we have run out of time. I want to thank you very much for being part of the show. Let me ask you, is there a way for people to do a website or somewhere that people can learn more about particularly what you're doing?
We do have a website. It's called ascendedpyramids.com. They can go on the website. The information there is very general. There's no specifics on it. We don't want to put specifics out because it usually turns away the people when you start being particular about numbers and angles and all that. It's only for people.
Like, I wanted help with my consciousness. I don't want to do math.
Yes. So yeah, they can contact us through the site, and hopefully we can help them.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again. I'd like to also say thank you again to Dr. Sam and Dr. Robert Gilbert for being generous with their time and spending a little bit of it with us here today. Just a wealth of information between the two of them, and it was my pleasure and to have the opportunity to interview them, and hopefully I can get them back on the show for full episodes. I'm sure they have more than enough information and interesting things to share with all of us. If you would like more information about tonight's guest, you can go to the paranormalmdradio.com. All guest information and website links will be posted there. You can also check out any past shows that you may have missed there or on our YouTube channel. And for all of you at home, thank you for joining me, and until next time.